In the previous video, we discussed how to work with text in Photoshop. Now we'll be looking at how to work with shape. Let's dive in. So in Photoshop, we have the option to use either ready-made shapes or we can create custom shapes. But to access our shapes, you come to this panel over here and we go to this rectangle, right? If you click and hold down, you see more shapes. So if I select an ellipse, that's what you see at that's the icon you will see. If you click here again and select the triangle, that's the icon you will see. So once you look through your toolbar, make sure you're looking for the shapes. So we can come in here, click on a rectangle, for example, and you have two options. You can either click and drag. Now, here you can draw whatever proportion you want. If you want it to be all the same sizes, you want it to stay in proportion, lock in proportion, you hold your shift. And now you see that we have a square. The width and height are the exact same. So if I remove my finger from my shift, you can see that I can do this. If I hold shift, not anymore because it's locked in proportion. So let's leave that. Now we have our shape. The second option is we have our shape selected. You simply just click on your canvas and then it gives us this dialog box. You can manually impute your width and your height depending on what you want. You can impute the corner radius. Remember when we did this in Canva where we made the edges round, you can impute actual figures for each of them. If you want them all to be the same, for example, I can make this 20 and all of them will be 20. And the reason why is because it is locked here. If I unlink them, now I can make one, let's say make this 50. I can make this 10 because they're not linked anymore. Now, let's click on OK. And now we have our shape. Let's click on our V. Click on V to go back to our move tool. And now we have our shape. Let me make it bigger so you can see it better and hold shift so that it locks in proportion. And now we have our shape. You can see the roundness here at 50. You can see the roundness here at 20 and you can see the roundness here at 10. So let's try to bring in another shape. Let's go in here and use our ellipse. Same thing, if you click and drag, you can create whatever kind. You can create an oval, create all kinds of circles. But if you hold your shift, we have a perfect circle in place. And if you leave that, we have our circle. So now our circle has round edges, so we don't have that option. So let me show you how else you can work with the corner rounding of a shape in Photoshop. Let's go back and bring in a square or a rectangle. We can use our shift to get a square. We can release that to get a rectangle. And now you can see these 4 dots at each edge. These control the corner roundness of your shape. So if I click once and drag, you can see that they all get round. If I pull it back out or pull it back in. So what if you want to do the same thing we did earlier on when we did it manually? You want just one side to be curved and you want the other ones to be straight. For this example, first of all, let's drag these out. So we have sharp edges. Now to do that, you double click on one circle on the edge that you want to make round and you drag that. Once you double click, you see that it is highlighted differently. Let me double click again. It's highlighted differently from the other 3, and that's how you know that you can work with this one alone. So you can drag that in and now we have a different shape that looks like this. So let's look at a few more things you can do with your shapes. If you're using an older version, like I said in the text example, you can come into your properties, same place, your properties, and you have your shape properties here. Same way you had your text properties, you have your shape properties. If you're using a newer version, you can just use this dialog box here. So first thing we can see here is our fill. So you can click in there to change the color. So let's say let's make it green. Let's make this one green. Let's click on this other shape and let's make this one red. So now we've successfully changed the colors of our shapes. So what if we wanted to add a stroke? Remember we used borders in Canva. So what if we wanted to replicate that here? What we need to do is, you have your option. You can see here that this is crossed out, so there's no stroke. If you click in there and you give it a color, let's say make it blue, here we can set the size of the stroke. So you click in there and you can just drag this lever. Remember what we did earlier on? And we have this. So this gives us the option to change our stroke style. We can use a straight line. We can use dashes. We can also use dots. Let's go back to our dashes. This helps us change the size of our stroke. And if you don't want a stroke any longer, you can come in here, click, and remember that icon that we saw earlier with the dash. Click in there, and now your stroke is gone. And you can come back here to change the color of your shape. And the same thing applies to this one. We can change the fill, we can adjust the stroke, we can adjust the stroke style. And because we have, remember this is already rounded because it's a circle. If we come back here, we have the option to make our corners rounded. So remember what we did? We have 178 here, we have 0 here, we have 0 here. You can come in here and say, okay, let me make this 100. And now you see what we have. And you can also use this, double click here again, and pull that in. So here you've learned how to work with already made shapes. So we have our circles, we have our squares, we have our rectangles, we have our triangles, we have our different shapes here. Let's come in here and look at the options we have. You can bring in a line, you can bring in a polygon, you can just use our triangle, and let's just click. And let's just click. And here we can select our height, we can select the width, same thing. So how about what if you wanted to create a custom shape, right? Remember we can't do that on Canva, and this is where Photoshop brings in more power. So what if you want to create a custom shape that is to your liking? To do that, we use the pen tool in Photoshop. So let's move this up. Let's go back to our move tool. And select our shapes. Let's move them up. And now let's go into our pen tool. That's this tool right here. See with the calligraphic tip, the icon there. So now we have our pen tool selected, right? And how this works is we use dots to connect lines that create our shape. So for example, let's start with a dot. Let's move this down here. Let's move this down here. We click here again, you click here again. And the moment you go back to the starting point, you see that it shows a circle. Once you click, it closes that path and it becomes a shape. So now we have a custom shape. Let's create something else. Let's do this, 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 and this. We have another custom shape. Now, if you go into Photoshop and you're trying to connect your lines and you don't see this line here, I'll show you how to set that. Let's delete this. If you come into your settings here, so remember you have your options here. If you come to the settings, you can see rubber band. If we turn it off and try to connect our lines again, you see that we don't have that line, right? So we need our rubber band. Let's delete this and go back to our settings and turn on your rubber band. You can change the color. You can change the thickness however you like. And here, when we come in and click, you can see our line. You can see our line. You can see our line. Let's move forward, bring it down. You just click in to add a dot and connect your shape. And once you get to the start, it connects all of that and you have your shape. And the same options are available. All right. Back to our move tool. Remember, we make those switches. Let's bring this up. So now we have our shape, but remember we're adding dots. So let's try something else. What if we wanted to make rounded corners instead of these straight lines that we have? How do we do that? So again, we go to our pen tool. Let's go to our move tool first and create some space on our canvas. Let's delete these. The same with this. Remember, this is our custom shape. So let's move that up. And now let's go to our pen tool. Make sure that you're clicking the pen tool. And here, instead of simply clicking and clicking and clicking, to create round corners, you click and drag. So if I click and drag, it gives us handles. And then now we can create curved shapes. Click and drag, gives us handles. Let's come here. Click and drag, creates handles. See that? Come here and back to the start and click. And now we have our shape. So in this video, I have showed you how to work with custom shapes and work with already made shapes, how to change the colors, how to add borders, how to increase the border width, change the color, and just work around the corners of shapes. In the next video, we'll be looking at images, how to bring images in, how to edit them, and work with images in Photoshop. See you there.